welcome kids to chapter number 4, the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire, it was founded in the year 4th century BCE by Chandragupta Maurya. To know about Mauryan Empire, we are going to talk about two different types of sources, literary sources and archaeological sources. So under literary sources, we have a book called as Arthashastra. Arthashastra is the book which was written by Chanakya. Chanakya was also known by the name of Vishnugupta or Kautilya. Chanakya was Prime Minister cum advisor of Chandragupta Maurya. This book is written in Sanskrit language. This book is a very comprehensive manual which talks about three things. It describes rules of diplomacy. Second, it talks about principle of administration. And third, it talks about various political topics. Arthashastra is a book written by Chanakya in Sanskrit language. This book talks about political topics, rules of diplomacy, and principle of administration. This book was discovered in the year 1909 and today we have its English translations available. So that is the first literary sources that gives us information about Mauryan Empire and very important to remember for your exam also. The second book that gives us information about Mauryan Empire is Indica, which is written by Megasthenes. Who was Megasthenes? He was a Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. He was sent by a Greek ruler, Seleucus Nicator, whose daughter was married to Chandragupta Maurya. So Seleucus Nicator had sent one Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya, whose name was Megasthenes. Megasthenes stayed in India. During his stay in India, whatever he saw about India, whatever he heard about India, what he experienced about India and the people of India, the culture of India, everything he noted down in a book called as Indica. Basically, he has shared his experience of staying in India in a book of called as Megasthenes. In the book called as Indica. Now Megasthenes had written this book Indica, but let me tell you one thing kids, the original Indica book had been lost. It was lost. In fact, today what we have available are its fragments. Today we have its fragments available, which are still surviving because of the writings of the later Greek writers like Strabo, Arrian, Diodorus. These are the later Greek writers because of whom the fragments of this book are still surviving. So original Indica has been lost. So that is Indica. He has explained a lot of events, what he experienced during India, a lot of in detail. Now, the second thing that is going to give us information about Mauryan Empire is archaeological sources, which is first edict. The first archaeological source is edict. What do you mean by edicts? Edicts are decree issued by sovereign. What do you mean by decree issued by sovereign? royal orders issued by king. Now, Ashoka's edicts are very famous. They are the most important source of information about Mauryan Empire. When you will understand Ashoka's edicts, you will get to know a lot of information about Ashoka, and in general you will get information about Mauryan Empire. These edicts were inscribed on rocks, on pillars. So we have discovered 14 major rock edicts, 7 pillar edicts, and several minor rock edicts. This edicts gives us information about the life of Ashoka, the ideals of Ashoka, and general information about Mauryan Empire. In fact, there are 2 edicts which are written in Kharoshthi script. So let me tell you one thing, all the other edicts are written in Brahma Lipi script. Brahma Lipi script. But there are 2 edicts which are not written in Brahma Lipi script. Those 2 edicts are the ones which is found at Mansehra, and the other one which has been found at Shahbazgari. These are the 2 edicts, the one found at Mansehra and the other found at Shahbazgari. These 2 edicts have been discovered and are written in Kharoshthi script. And let me tell you one thing, Kharoshthi script is quite similar to Arabic script, which is written from right to left. But rest all the edicts are in Brahma Lipi script. So edicts are very important information about Mauryan Empire. Let us talk about few of the edicts. So the most important event that took place during Ashoka's period was War of Kalinga. Ashoka had conquered almost all the places of India at that time except for one place of Kalinga. Ashoka declared war on Kalinga also. He won over Kalinga. So Kalinga is basically modern day Orissa. But the death, destruction, which the sufferings, the bloodshed he saw during the war of Kalinga, that had so much of impact on Ashoka that he changed. He became completely a changed person after the war of Kalinga. After seeing so much of death, destruction, he decided that he will never take up arms again. He decided to give up the policy of war. He decided, I don't want to win over any places through war. In fact, earlier in the kingdom, whenever Ashoka used to declare war on anyone, in his kingdom, a drum was heard. The moment that drum beat was heard, that drum beat was called as Beri Ghosha. That was called as war drum. The moment people would hear the echo of Beri Ghosha, war drum, that means Ashoka has declared war on anyone, on someone. But after the war of Kalinga, Ashoka decided to give up the policy of war. He decided not to take up arms ever again. So the war drum was never heard again in his kingdom. Beri Ghosha was silenced forever. After this, if ever anything was heard in his kingdom, it was Dhamma Ghosha. Dhamma Ghosha was a call to non-violence and universal peace. It was a call to non-violence and universal peace. So, one of the edict described that after the war of Kalinga, Ashoka has decided to give up the policy of war. He has decided not to take up arms ever again. The war drum of Beri Ghosha shall be silenced forever. From now onwards, only Dhamma Ghosha shall be heard, which will be a call to non-violence and universal peace. That has been inscribed, this entire thing is inscribed on one of the edict. Also, after the war of Kalinga, Ashoka decided to give up the policy of violence. he decided he wanted to follow the policy of non-violence. So in pursuance of his policy of non-violence, he prohibited killing of animals in his kingdom. Earlier in his kingdom, many animals were killed. They were killed for meat consumption. They were killed for sacrifices to the god, goddess. To please the deity and their goddess, they used to kill and sacrifice animals. He also, the animals were also killed for hunting. But in one of the edict, he made an announcement that from now onwards in his kingdom, in pursuance of the policy of non-violence, not a single animal shall be killed. This has been clearly written on Rock Edict 1. So yes, these are the two important edicts which we have to remember. Now, the next thing that gives information about Mauryan Empire is Sanchi Stupa. Sanchi Stupa. What is stupa? Stupa is a semi-spherical dome-shaped structure. It is a semi-spherical dome-shaped structure made up of unburnt bricks and stones. Stupa is a semi-spherical dome-shaped structure made up of unburnt bricks and stones. Now, Buddhist stupa. Stupa is associated with Buddhism. Stupa represents Buddha. It represents Buddha in spiritual form. So basically, when there is a dome, inside the dome, at the base of the dome, there will be a cascade which will be containing relics of Buddha, which will contain, let's say, relics of Buddha such as hair, teeth, bone, and that is what people worship. This is what people worship in stupa. Sanchi Stupa is located 45 km away from Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh at a place called as Sanchi. Sanchi is located 45 km away from Bhopal. So in the stupa there are carved panels. There are carved panels in stupa. There are, and what is carved on it? They have carved all the symbols of Buddha. For example, lotus, peepal tree, wheel. These are the things they have carved everywhere. They have also carved events depicting life of Buddha, events from the life of Buddha. They have also carved some of the events from Jataka stories. Here Buddha is represented somewhere in the form of lotus, somewhere in the form of wheel, somewhere in the form of peepal tree. Outside, the stupa has 4 gateways. Outside the stupa, at the gateways, there are pillars, and on the pillars, on the top of the pillar, there is a sculpture of lion. So there are 4 Asiatic lions facing 4 different directions, sitting back to back, like this and like this. 4 Asiatic lions sitting back to back, facing 4 different directions. Standing back to back, standing back to back, facing 4 different directions. And the base of that is very elaborately decorated with other animals. This, in fact, this is there on the pillars which are outside, which are at the gate of stupa. And this has been adopted as our national emblem. So that is Sanchi Stupa. Now, there are 3 main rulers of Mauryan Empire: Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, and Ashoka. As I told you earlier, Ashoka became a changed person after the war of Kalinga. Okay. Now kids, let us talk about the administration of Mauryan Empire. So, Mauryan Empire administration was pan-India in nature. Was pan-Indian in nature. Let me tell you one thing. सबसे पहले let me talk about Seleucus Nicator. Chandragupta Maurya had defeated Seleucus Nicator, who was a Greek ruler. At that time, Seleucus Nicator was ruling 4 places of India, which were in the northwestern part of India: Kabul, Kandahar, Herat, and Baluchistan. And when Seleucus Nicator and Chandragupta Maurya got into war, Chandragupta Maurya had won that war. And these 4 places were handed over by Seleucus Nicator to Chandragupta Maurya. And these all 4 places stayed with Mauryan Empire till end of Ashoka's rule. So that means Mauryan Empire rule had extended from northwestern part of India. Also, the second Mauryan ruler was Bindusara. At the time of Bindusara, there was a place called as Takshila, which is in the eastern side. And that time in the province of Takshila, the people had revolted in the Takshila. And that revolt was crushed. That revolt was crushed by Ashoka. That means East was also with them. Also, Bindusara had defeated 16 rulers in south of India. That shows that that rule extended in south of India also. Also, the fact that Chandragupta Maurya had spent last days of his life at a place called as Shravan Belagola in Karnataka. This clearly shows that their rule had extended till south. So almost their rule was pan-India in nature. What is the advantage of having pan-Indian character of your kingdom? So when you have pan-India kingdom, the advantage we get is all the small states will end. It will bring an end to all the small states. Secondly, it will help to establish trade links with foreign countries. You can establish very good trade links with foreign countries because they will have more trust in you, as your kingdom is pan-India in nature. So any foreign countries would be willing to do trade with you. Also, it made our country at that time very strong, because of which any foreign aggression Mauryan Empire were able to face very strongly. And after winning Kalinga, if you all know, as I said, after winning Kalinga, Ashoka had ended the era of conquest. He had not waged war on anyone after that, because of which they were able to pay more attention to the social and economic condition of people, and that had brought a lot of economic prosperity in India during Mauryan Empire. So that is the advantage of pan-India character. See, Chandragupta Maurya had established Mauryan Empire under the guidance of Chanakya. In fact, it is Chanakya who had laid foundation of the administration. Their entire administration setup was done by Chanakya. Chanakya has written the book which we spoke about in the beginning, Arthashastra. In that book, he has very clearly explained all the rules of politics and how he had carried out the administration. Very detailed, it is written in that book. Chandragupta's son continued the setup which was done by Chanakya. He also continued with the same thing. Even Ashoka continued the same administration. Only Ashoka had brought one change. So let me tell you before I go ahead, Ashoka had added, before Ashoka in Mauryan Empire there were 4 provinces. But Ashoka added 5th province, and that 5th province was called as Kalinga. And the capital of Kalinga was Tosali. Also, Mauryan Empire was centralized in nature. And the rule and the power of monarch, the king, was very strong. The rule of king was like the ultimate. In fact, Ashoka has said also in one of the edict that all men are my children, means every ruler would treat the people of his kingdom as they would love them with the parental love. Okay, they would take care of their kingdom people as if they are taking care of their own kids. Ashoka, in fact, before there were many rigorous practices related to administration, regarding taxation, regarding crop collection, but Ashoka had eased out many of these principles, many of these practices, because of which there was productivity increasing in the kingdom, because of this economic activity were increasing in the kingdom. Ashoka brought one change in the administration. He added the fifth province, and what change he brought in the administration? He started appointing officers called as Mahamantras. This category of officer did not exist at the time of Chandragupta, did not exist at the time of Bindusara. So who were these Mahamantras? These were the officers who would look after, whose task was to look after the welfare of the people. So the appointment of Mahamantras was done by Ashoka. Their administration can be divided into civil administration and military administration. Again, civil administration can be central, it can be provincial, it can be district, it can be city. It is divided into 4. So the head of the central administration was king. King was the head of central administration. King had the supreme authority. And his throne was of course hereditary. King's son would continue again as a king. King was the supreme judge. In fact, at that time, the central administration as was planned by Chanakya. King was the head and king was assisted by Mantri Parishad, by a group of ministers called as Mantri Parishad, who were also called as Council of Minister. So who all were there in Mantri Parishad? The head of the Mantri Parishad was Prime Minister, who was assisting king. So king was the head and now king was assisted by Mantri Parishad, and the head of the Mantri Parishad used to be Prime Minister. Now there were different ministers in Mantri Parishad, in council. So first there was Pujari. Pujari was the person who was called as Purohit, state Purohit. Then there was Senapati in Mantri Parishad. Senapati was an officer who would advise king on the matter of war and peace. Then there was Sanidhata. He was an officer who was called as head treasurer. Then there was Samaharta. Samaharta was a taxation expert. So these were the main people. Head was PM, Prime Minister. Then there was Purohit, Senapati. Then there was Samaharta, Sanidhata. And one additional officer was appointed at the time of Ashoka, Mahamantras, who were looking after the welfare of the people. They had also at the central level appointed some of the departments के लिए superintendent. For example, there was a superintendent of mines, there was a superintendent of ports, there was a superintendent of weights and measures, there was an officer who was called as controller of commerce, there was an accountant general, there was one officer who was taking care of agriculture. So like this, for different department, they had various officers. So that is central. The second administration is provincial. The head of the province was called as Kumara. Usually the prince was given this post. He was called as Kumara, or he was also called as Aryaputra. Now, Kumar or Aryaputra, only prince were appointed at this post. During Ashoka's time, the Kumar or Aryaputra was assisted by Mahamantras. You remember we just spoke about them? So they were assisted by Mahamantras. Mahamatras at the province level were working as a governor. Now, at province level, there were three main officers. Besides Mahamatra, who was directly assisting prince, but there were three main officers more. Rajuka, Yukta and Pradeshika. Yukta was a treasurer. Rajuka was the person who was performing work of Tehsildar. Tehsildar means revenue officer. And there was Pradeshika, who was the officer who would collect tax. Head of the province was Prince. Prince was given the post of Kumar or Aryaputra. He was directly assisted by Mahamatras, the governor. And then they were assisted by three more people, Rajuka, Yukta, Pradeshika. Then district administration. The provinces were divided into small districts. Each district was called as Janapada. And district was taken care by three people. Again the same, Rajuka, Yukta and Pradeshika. What about city administration? At that time, the head of the city was called as Nagar Adhyaksha. According to Megasthenes, the administration of one of the best city, Patliputra, which was the capital city of Mauryan Empire. So for Patliputra, they had appointed a committee of 30 members. Okay, so that is one thing which Megasthenes has mentioned about city administration also. Now what about the revenue? At that time in Mauryan Empire, the main source of revenue was what? The main source of income for Mauryan Empire was land revenue. The rate of the land revenue used to be from 1/6 to 1/4. It was somewhere between 1/6 to 1/4. There were two types of taxes which were collected, Bali and Bhaga. There were two types of taxes, Bali and Bhaga. So Bali was a religious tribute. Bhaga was a tax which was imposed on agricultural produce and cattle, and the rate of Bhaga tax was 1/6. In fact, if any commodities were brought in the kingdom from outside the kingdom, they used to impose toll tax on them. Taxes were also imposed on liquor shops, gambling houses. Some taxes were also collected from forest and mines, and all this tax money was used for the welfare of the people. Lot of things, they were building hospitals, irrigation facilities, roads. Lot of things were provided to people with this tax money. Now how was their military administration? They had a very good military administration. Chandragupta Maurya maintained a huge army. There was infantry, there was cavalry, elephant, chariot, everything. In fact, their army had 6 lakh infantry, 30,000 cavalry, 9,000 war elephant, 8,000 chariots. They used bows, arrows, sword, shield. The commander-in-chief of the army was king himself. To look after the army, they had appointed military commission of 30 members. They would look after the army, the weapons, the recruitment, and they had a very good recruitment policy. Like there was a proper selection done for every soldier. At all the strategic important places, they had built fort. Also, most the soldiers were paid salary in cash. So this is how their administration was. The last thing we are going to talk about is Ashoka's Dhamma. After the war of Kalinga, Ashoka started he embraced Buddhism. But of course, he never forced people to follow the religion which he was following. He wanted his people to follow Dhamma. What is Dhamma? So Dhamma is based on the unifying principle of all the religions. It is based on those principles which unifies all the religion. Dhamma is not any religion. Dhamma is not a religion, it is not a religion system. It is a common code of conduct. I mean, we can say it is an ethical order. It is a common code of conduct, it is an ethical order. It is a moral law. It is a moral law. Basically, all the religion will be agreeing on this. It's a common meeting ground of all religion. What are the principles of Dhamma? According to Dhamma, Ashoka's Dhamma, we should respect elders, love children, practice ahimsa or non-violence, do only good deeds or good karmas that will give happiness to all, and that will bring happiness to men in next birth also. Your good karmas will give you good things in next birth also. He taught people to respect all religion. He did not approve any rituals. He disapproved empty rituals. What was the impact of Dhamma? Ashoka started following Dhamma, because of which all the people started feeling, different religion people also started feeling united, because now people were respecting each other's religion. So there was a policy of religious tolerance that brought unity among all the religion. Also, people started getting influenced by Dhamma, so they started living moral life. Because of Dhamma, theft, crime, or any such activities in the kingdom almost came to an end. Also, Ashoka's Dhamma brought welfare of the people. Ashoka started taking so many work for public welfare, public schemes, public work schemes, and that brought lot of prosperity in his kingdom. So that was the impact of Ashoka's Dhamma. So that was your Mauryan Empire chapter. Kids, a very good chapter, very easy and important chapter. Make sure to learn it properly. Thank you so much.